Hello, my name's A.J. Goldsby. I'm a life master from Pensacola, Florida, and I wanted to bring you a video on one of the most interesting chess games of all time, in my opinion, at least one of the most interesting games of the 19th century. It was played in 1858. It's one of the more famous games. It's a highly disputed game. A lot of people argued for years over this. This was disputed in books. It's been covered in many books. Gary Kasparov, when he did his, or Kasparov did his series, the Red Books, on the series of world champions and the greatest players that ever lived, he covered this game. It's also covered in many other books and magazines over the years. I first started working seriously on this game in 2001. Actually, before that, but I'm talking about on the computer. I began working on this game and working with chess engines and also trying to analyze it deeply and also documenting, what all the books had to say about it, because by this time there were already a great number of books that had come out. I've received countless requests over the years to do this game. Of course, I already have a web page on this game. And I will post a link to that web page. This game has been analyzed by the Russians. It's been analyzed in dozens of books and magazines. There was a very good video analysis done of this game, and you can hear Larry Christensen speak. It's on the Chess Master 10th edition program. And even though it's sort of an outdated program, and I'm not sure they're updating Chess Master anymore, it's still a fun program to have, and I still have my copy, and I still listen to it occasionally. And anyway, you go to the main menu and then go to Learn, then go to Academy, and then go to Larry Christensen's Attacking Chess, and you can look at watch that video. I mean, it's just really fun, and it's very interesting that Larry Christensen did that. Also, too, this game's been analyzed by the Russians. Kind of a few years ago, they got into an argument over it online, and it was being disputed by several different players. Carsten Mueller began investing in this game. He's a very well-known German master, and I believe he's an IM, or maybe even a grandmaster. But anyway, he began analyzing this thing, and analyzing this game, and he looked at it in one of his in-game corners. I believe it was back in 2004, I think. But anyway, so this game's a very famous game of chess. The game was played between Paul Morphy and the English player Henry Bird. It was a match game probably played for stakes, because all games were, played that way. Morphy's family had set him the condition of no gambling prior from his departure from America. However, I think the way they got around that condition was that an outside sponsor or someone, was able to come forward with the stakes that were agreeable to both players. Morphy wasn't interested in money. I guess his family, at least at the time prior to the Civil War, were quite well to do, and I do believe that the Civil War bankrupted his family. That his family's fortune was lost after the Civil War, during the Civil War. But anyway, this is a very interesting game. Bird was probably at least a 2400. I give him an estimated rating here of 2400. Morphy, 2650, and I think that's an extremely conservative rating in this day and age of grossly inflated ratings. But anyway, let's just go ahead and get on with the game here and take a look at the game. Paul Morphy was black and Henry Bird was white. Again, this was played in London in a head-to-head match in 1858. White starts off e4, e5, knight f3, d6. This is, of course, the Philidor's defense. I'm not really sure how Morphy decided to arrive at this particular opening. He played a number of different openings. He seemed to vary greatly from opening. I think he had something very specific in mind. In fact, he's going to play a somewhat questionable attacking setup as black. d4, black plays f5. This was a extremely risky counterattack that was all the rage back in the mid-1800s. And I guess even Morphy wasn't immune to wanting to try it. This game was also, this same opening was also played in Barnes Morphy 1858. And you can look that game up in the chess-based database. Not going to deeply analyze the opening. I mean, if you want to do that, they have chess engines in just about any good book like MCO 15. We'll take a look at this. No modern grandmaster would play this line, and I don't think I've seen this game in a modern game. So that in itself should tell you that it's probably just a little too risky to even be played. But anyway, F5 was played. White plays a very reasonable move, maybe even a little too routine. He just plays knight c3, although the computer still awards white a large edge here. Black takes on e4, white takes d5, knight g3. That might not have been a good move here. I guess the best move in this particular position for white was probably, I guess, knight takes e5. And there we get into some really complications. We'll just explore that briefly. Knight takes e5, d takes e4, queen h5 check, g6, knight takes g6, h takes g6 check, queen takes g6, king d7, queen f5 check, king 8, queen e5 check, bishop e6, exclam, queen takes h8, queen d5. And here the Grandmaster Larry Christensen thinks black might be okay. He maybe has comp for the material, and the computers evaluate it as plus minus, but it's a very, very complicated position. And there's ways to improve on that analysis. I mean, again, I could go into a very deep computer analysis of that line, but that in itself would take more time than I really want to invest. I don't want this video to run, several hours. I want to mainly get through this game, and also I want to analyze maybe the key piece of the analysis here. In fact, I'm going to finish the game, conclude the game, then we're going to back up and look, try to reach the key point to where Bird erred and try to find the improvement, because that's the position that has been much explored by many of the players. Anyway, knight g3, e4, knight e5, knight f6. Black's already doing okay according to Fritz 13. I have that program running in the background just to give me a fairly, good heads up and a evaluation of the position. Bishop g5, bishop d6, knight h5. That move is way too ambitious there. Probably dubious. Black just castles queen d2, queen e8, hitting the knight. g4. That was just a bad move. White inflicts a gash in his own king side. Knight takes g4. Knight takes g4. Bishop, queen takes h5 rather. Morphy plays an obvious capture, although bishop takes g4 was a serious consideration there. Knight e5, knight c6, bishop e2, queen h3, knight takes c6, b takes c6, bishop e3. Now here comes a pretty interesting position on move 16. Just looking at the game for the first time in a long time, at least a couple of years, and seriously, 2 or 3 years. Rook b8 has been just routinely looked at, but black had a very serious alternative here in the idea of pushing the pawn to a5, and that's like by Fritz 13, Houdini, Deep Shredder, etc. Several very strong engines all seem to like 16 pawn to queen rook 4 or a7, a5 here for black. So that's just a new alternative. I thought I'd point out. Rook b8, white castles queen side. Really didn't have a choice at this point. And now we have probably the position, that is the critical one. And here, Kasparov, in his book on, where he covers the my great predecessors, Kasparov's series of books here, he covers this game, and most, even the computers like bishop g4 here, and that's got to be a good move. However, Paul Morphy plays one of the deepest sacks maybe ever. I mean, certainly one of the deeper sacks ever played chess game. He plays rook takes f2. I give that a double exclam, because if nothing else, it's just too darned interesting to pass up. Bishop takes f2, queen a3. Okay, now you've got threats of mate. Obviously, simply pawn takes queen is answered by bishop takes pawn on a3 checkmate. So that's just impossible. And I have a web page for this game. I really do not want to analyze, too many of the details here, because I also have a web page on this game, and many of the alternatives I have covered on my web page, and you'll be able to find all that on my web page. But anyway, the correct move here is c3. That's correct. And now queen takes a2, b4. That was forced. Queen a1 check, king c2, queen a4 check. Here's where this is the critical position in the game. And this is where Bird really messes up. He plays king b2. That was just, he gets smashed. He just gets blown right out of the water. But what was interesting here was that the critical position arises after king c1. Now, for a long time, only bishop takes pawn on b4 was looked at, and that basically should win for white. I do believe I don't think it's going to pan out. Shibu has a book on Paul Morphy, and he analyzes that as well. But a5 is a relatively new move here, and I'm going to come back to this position later. We're going to take a fairly decent look at this as an alternative. But first, let's just go ahead and do the game. Queen a4 check. Bird plays king b2. I mean, he's just walking into a smash. Now bishop takes b4 is just a complete smash. It's basically a mopping up operation for Morphy. He's going to tie up he's going to very neatly tie up all the loose ends. White's going to soon be forced to surrender his more material. In his defense, Bird just simply overlooked Morphy's powerful move just a few moves down the line. Takes on b4, rook takes b4 check. Queen takes b4, that's pretty much forced. If the king goes to c3, then, I mean, c3, queen b3 is mate. So and if king c1, queen a1, king c2, queen b2 is mate. So queen takes b4 is forced. Queen takes b4 check, king c2. And here we have the move that probably Bird missed, was simply e3. He just totally missed that idea, you know, and without that move, you know, Morphy's attack would run out of gas. That's pretty much forced. Bishop f5 check. And now rook d3 is completely forced. Just quickly, bishop d3 gets smashed by queen c4 check, king d2, queen takes d3. You know, or if king b2 there after queen c4 check, just simply bishop takes d3. Again, you know, white's getting smashed. The computer says, Fritz 13 says black is winning minus plus, and it's almost 12 points, you know, in black's favor. So it's really not a position worthy of serious investigation there. But so going backwards here, rook d3, that was completely forced. Looks like an ugly move. Almost looks like a mistake, but the computer verifies it was 100% forced. Now you've got queen c4 check, king d2. Queen a2 check, king d1. And now queen b1 check. And here white throws in the towel because, you know, obviously if the king moves, you snatch a rook. And if bishop takes, you know, if bishop c1, then bishop takes rook on d3. Black also wins there. Again, Fritz 13 is evaluating the final position is, you know, almost 10 points, you know, it's jumping back and forth between nearly 9 points and over 9. Now it's jumping up again to over 9 points. So, you know, it's somewhere in the neighborhood between 8 and 10 points, you know, and that's, you know, minus, you know, 8 to minus 10, and that's a very easy win for black. Now what I would like to do, though, is just briefly, let's just back up here, because here's where the fun, in my opinion, really begins. If we back up here to where he played king b2, let's look at king c1, and now this is where things get interesting. Okay, after king c1, let's go back to in-game corner number 23 from www.chesscafe.com, and this is November 2002. I think I said 2004 earlier. I was off there a little bit. It was a riddle of Bird versus Morphy revisited by Karsten Mueller, Muller. And also there's a very nice disc, The Games of Paul Morphy, and analyze that as well. But a5 was the move that Morphy could have played here if Bird had actually played king c1. And this position is just tons of fun. In fact, I have analyzed this so many times with so many engines, I've come to the conclusion that this position represents a nearly inexhaustible wealth of material. I mean, I really think you could spend years analyzing this position and maybe not figure out everything to do here. But right now, I will say that Fritz 13 is currently evaluating this position at almost dead level, maybe a tiny plus for black. And, you know, it's analyzing fairly deeply. It's doing 21, now it's jumping up to 22 and then 25. But anyway, it's looking at 2002 kilonodes here. So it's doing a fairly systematic and a fairly deep search. But anyway, a5 is the interesting move. And I don't have time to run through all the analysis here. In fact, if I recorded here on this video everything that I looked at, you know, we would probably be here, and we took a time to, if I took time to explain some of the ideas, we would be here literally a couple of hours. But anyway, I just wanted to briefly run through this main line and comment on them. Needless to say, A5 is a major improvement to black. Prior to the chess engines, bishop takes pawn on B4 was thought to win for black or looked at for black. But anyway, A5. Now queen C2, queen A3 check, queen B2. I'm going to skip some. Oh, there is a sideline here. We really should look at this because a former world champion, I believe it was Natalie Karpov, he gives the horrible line king D2. That's almost like a double question mark. A takes B4. And now he gives rook A1. That's like, the engines jumped there about 20 points with that stupid move. Rook A1. And now you get king E1 was much better. But anyway, bishop takes C3. King E3 dubious. Bishop F4, double exclam, king takes F4. Queen D6 check, king there. And then queen A6 checkmate. And that line is attributed to Natalie Karpov. I don't know if he actually analyzed that out on his own or if one of his, people did that and he just took credit for it. Because, if you know anything about the history of the Russians, some of their stronger players are real famous for actually taking credit for work done by someone else. But anyway, it doesn't matter. That line is attributed to Karpov. I'll at least say that. And if you check it with any engine, you're going to find it's just terribly flawed. But after queen A3 check there, I believe the correct move is queen B2. That's the correct line there. And now A takes B4. Queen takes A3. B takes A3. This is a very wild position. Right now, black has 4 pawns for the rook that's invested. Okay. Black, according to Fritz 13, black's, a little bit better, anywhere from, 27 100ths of a pawn, jumping up to over 50 100ths of a pawn. It seems to be moving back and forth now. But anyway, several of the engines like bishop G3 here. That's an interesting alternative to the line normally given here. I just wanted to point that out. But bishop E3, we're going to stick with the Karsten Mueller Brucker line, and the line also analyzed by about a dozen Russian chess masters. I believe my webpage has links to some of the Russian analysis. But anyway, rook B3, double exclam, king D2, rook B2 check, king E2, A2. Also bishop H3, 28 ... Bishop H3 was worth serious investigation there as well. But right now, we have, the move A2 is what they usually give. Rook A1, bishop D7, king D1, C5. This is an amazing, move. The idea there is, of course, bishop A4 check, hitting the white king. D takes C5. Bishop E7, double exclam. H4, that's an interesting move. Noble, now here bishop A4 check is played. And I believe this is Karsten Mueller's and Brucker's analysis. Noble, another player, I believe he's German. But anyway, Knoebel proposes that black should try 32H6 here. And that's a very interesting move and may even win for black. So that's another line of analysis. If you have a strong engine, fire it up, and you can spend hours, do overnight analysis and whatever. But anyway, bishop A4 check, I believe, is the Karsten Mueller line. And then we get king E1. Bishop takes H4, king F1. Bishop F6, bishop to D4. King F7, king E1, bishop B3. But anyway, there's many different lines there. I mean, if I stop to analyze all the branches, I'm so tempted to look at several of the branches here. But if we do that again, we could be here literally all day long. And I don't want this video to run too long. But anyway, bishop takes F6, G takes F6, king F2. King E6, and we're getting very close here. Also, black had bishop C4 there. King E3, F5. Rook takes H7, rook B1, rook back, rook takes, King E5. This is with compensation for the material. Fritz agrees with that, and he gives black the slight, fairly decent edge there. This is the position, one of the key positions that several Russian masters, it's Grandmaster Karsten Mueller. I owe him an apology. I think I called him an IM early in the video. He was an IM once upon a time, but he's a Grandmaster now. And D. Brucker and several other Russian masters, they've all deeply investigated this position. And this is the position they conclude that basically that, general conclusion, Grandmaster Karsten Mueller, Brucker, and many Russian masters as well, all conclude that black wins. Okay. We'll give the main line of their analysis. This is their analysis, not mine. going down here. Okay, I believe this is where they stop. They conclude that black is winning. Wow. More branches. Rook takes c7. Now this is my original analysis of the Russian analysis. I kind of branch off at some point. I'm not exactly sure where. I mean, there's just so many branches here. But I wanted to reach an interesting position. In fact, let's back up just a little bit here. Let's see. Okay, this is I guess this is the key position. One of the key positions. This is analysis by Mueller and Brucker. This is where they stopped. And a lot of people want to rook a7 here. Of course, there's many different moves here, but you know, rook a7 is generally what we looked at. Obviously, you know, the idea is to pick off the pawn on c7 and run a c pawn in. You have to respect that. I mean, you know, if white doing nothing doesn't look too terribly attractive, and you know, black doesn't have a lot of material on there to stop white's passed pawn. But anyway, rook king f2, rook takes c7, bishop c4, rook e7, e3 check, king d1. Now we get into some really wild stuff. Bishop e2 check, double exclam, king c2, bishop g4, good move. c6, there's other branches there. Again, more branches. f3, king d1, king g2, rook g7, e2 check, king d2, f2, double exclam, rook takes g4, king f1. And here, Fritz 13 says that black is winning, and the evaluation is in the 15 to 20 point range. It's jumping around a little bit, but now it's dropped down to the minus 14.24. Now it jumped back up again. But anyway, black's winning in all the pertinent variations, and that's basically my main line of my analysis of that. And it's possible, probably, maybe even to improve upon that. I'm not sure. I mean, you know, but anyway, it's a very interesting line of analysis. You can explore that position maybe infinitely if you have a mind to, but it's certainly a lot of fun to look at that line. And it's just something interesting that I came across a few years. Again, it's been deeply explored by, you know, a whole host of other people. And Karsten Mueller, I think, is the one that actually started it. Or actually, there was another analyst that started it, but Mueller picked it up, and you know, it's been later analyzed by the Russians and several people, many people online. And chess games, www.chessgames.com, their page has people there who have very powerful engines, and they turned on their engines, and they found several interesting ideas. And they posted a lot of their analysis too. And some of that stuff, I've gone through it myself. It's just fascinating. I mean, again, you could spend hours and hours on it. But anyway, that basically concludes my coverage of the very famous game. Again, this was Bird versus Morphy, and the position in the actual game ended with. Let me just quickly give you my the books that, or the sources I found for some of my analysis. Chessmaster 10th edition, that was one of the sources. Credible volume was My Great Predecessors, Part 1 by Gary Kasparov. That's Chapter 1, Game 8, page 37. Another very good book is Paul Morphy and the Evolution of Chess by Macon Shibu, S-H-I-B-U-T. That's the copyright 1993. The ISBN number on that is 0-939433-18-8. And the analysis of that game begins on page 61. Blotny has a good analysis in the ChessBase, and if you have many of the ChessBase databases, you'll get analysis. There's a analysis of this game in the development of chess style by GM Max Uwe, or U. Some people say U. It's E-U-W-E, and it's been revised now by John Nunn. You have Morphy's Chess Masterpieces. That's a game by Soltis and Reinfeld. That's circa 1974. And there was a New in Chess magazine in the 1992 yearbook did a nice analysis of this game. And I could go on and on there. There's several more sources there, but I just wanted to briefly to read you that. And to just quickly, again, we're just going to summarize the end of the game. Going back to the key position, I do want to just do that again. Queen a4 check. This is where Bird played the terrible mistake, really almost a blunder there of king b2, and Morphy tore him up with bishop takes b4, takes, rook takes b4 check, queen takes b4, queen takes check, 25, king c2, e3, bishop takes e3, bishop f5 check, rook d3, queen c4 check, king d2, queen a2 check, king d1, queen b1 check. And here Bird resigned. This is the actual game, not the analysis. And I did want to end with the actual game so as not to confuse you. The other part was just simply all analysis that, you know, I picked up and had been begun by other people, and I picked up and also wanted to take a brief look at because it's extremely fascinating. Well, that pretty much concludes my analysis of this game. The video is running over 25 minutes now, which is a bit longer than I really wanted to do. But I did want to take a look at some of that analysis because, again, that material there is just too rich and too unbelievable almost to pass up. And also, if you have your own chess engine, you can fire it up, and I guarantee you can spend hours looking at this stuff. I mean, there's just so many branches. The branches are almost infinite. And I would also love to hear from you if you want to send me an email. If you come up with something new or want to send me something, my email is LifeMasterAJ@yahoo.com. And, of course, I have my own channel on YouTube video, and I have my own webpage on this game, and I'll be updating that and posting a link to the webpage in the section of the video, just below the video box where it says Show More. Click on that, and I'll put the link for the webpage. And also put the link for the Chess Games webpage for this particular game also as well, because that's a valuable resource. Well, anyway, that pretty much concludes my analysis of this game. Thank you for watching my video. If you like my videos and would like to support them, then please, by all means, do so. Just go to PayPal, the PayPal website. That's www.paypal.com, and just, you know, make a donation using my email, which again is LifeMasterAJ@yahoo.com. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a great day.